Speaking of Destiny, we are live.
Oh.
You sneaky son of a bitch.
Oh, I wanted to catch that last little bit on air, but I was too slow. Story of my life.
This is our Destiny.
You're trying to catch the plug, you mean?
No, the Daniel explaining how his next career, his post-retirement career.
Destiny's trying to get to community college.
Leave it to you, Chris, to bring up the plug again. I thought we got through this last episode.
No, man, I'm all about the plug. Those? It's only December now, but I mean, eventually we're going to get into the depths of winter. You know, January, February. You know, when you just can't get warm.
Mm-hmm.
There's a solution for that now.
That internal heater, you betcha.
Amazon.ca/internal core temperature warmer.
Sitka Camo, patented trademark.
All right, bunch of heathens. Welcome to the First Focal Plane podcast, episode 26. We're the itch you need to scratch during the latest lockdown shit. Hopefully we're not the one you need creams for.
Definitely need that antibacterial for us.
Did you write that down?
I did.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Sean
told me to do it.
I'm conflicted about that one.
If Sean told you to jump off a bridge, would you?
All right, we're once again proudly brought to you by EM Precision Rifles in Leduc, Alberta, Canada's premier precision builder of lightweight hunting rifles, starter packages, and extreme long-range monsters. EM Precision has the right stuff to get you running out ahead of the herd. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and their website at emprifles.ca.
You bet.
How was that for my radio voice?
Hey, that was decent. Better than mine. But speaking of radio voice, we are also brought to you by Bolt Action Coffee, who bring you award-winning specialty coffees to the precision shooting community. Sorry, guys. Boasting specialty coffee cupping scores of 85.5 or higher. Bolt Action Coffee Roast will get your morning started right and keep you on target all day long. Choose between Scopes, Up, Overwatch, Suppressed, and 11th Hour sold out. That we should update that. But yeah, that was a great success. They sold out of the 11th Hour. So all proceeds went to Canadian veteran organizations. I don't know which ones, but I should find that out. Find them on Instagram, Facebook, and their website, boltactioncoffee.com, and use code FIRSTFocalPlane in all caps to make us number one in terms of sales, and you get 10% off your order.
Are we still number two?
Maybe. I don't know. I haven't asked. So, yeah, check them out. BoltActionCoffee.com. So,
hey, I just got a notification that Shooter's Mindset is now live. Do we want to go over there?
No. That's a good show, but
it is a pretty good show.
It's not our show. So,
right. Or something? I don't know.
What's that, Daniel?
Do we not like them?
No, they're great.
No, they're good.
Nothing against them. It just so happens they're in our slot. What the fuck, boys?
Jeez.
Anyway,
well, it's that free trade agreement. Hey,
that's right.
Just messing everything up.
Capitalism at its finest, right?
That's it. Yeah.
Chris, who else were we brought to you by?
Yeah, we are also brought to you by Callsign 66. Callsign 66 is a veterans-based organization founded to facilitate multi-generational passage of information, ballistic applications, R&D, and shooter development, whose collective function is morally motivated and experience-based. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Find them on Facebook, Instagram, and their website at callsign66.ca.
You got to get down in that welcome to the Brotherhood.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Welcome
to the Brotherhood.
That's it. There you go.
Give us a good one, Daniel. Let's hear it.
Welcome to the Brotherhood.
There you go.
That was much better. That had way more intensity. That was much better.
Yeah. It was the pause.
That was
the
free.
Pause. Yeah. It's a dramatic pause.
Doug Rodenbush, sorry. He chimed in here right away, and he was complaining last show about we always start while he's making supper. So I said, what, no supper tonight? He goes, this time, you guys got me on a diet. If I got to run and gun with you guys in X-22 and hike for the sniper series, I have to get in shape. Apparently round isn't a shape anymore. Well, sure tell that to Sean and our buddy John.
Hey,
round diplomats.
I had to punch another hole in the belt this week, so there you go.
Hopefully not to the right.
No.
What if he loops his belt backwards?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you should.
Hey guys, we have a very special guest this week.
Yeah.
The man, the myth, the legend himself, Mr. Daniel Shaw. Round of applause. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
I think that's the first time we've ever done that. Aside from that time,
It was awkward.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Yeah, it felt awkward. I'm glad it looked that way also.
Put your hands together for our next.
Come to the main stage.
Yeah.
Tiffany.
Tiffany,
yeah. There you go. So
who the hell are you?
Yeah, who are you, Daniel?
Oh man, yeah, that's pretty tough.
We're getting right into the big philosophical question.
It's like, man, what am I?
What are any of us?
Personalities would you like to hear from?
Jeez. I'm a guy, retired Marine, dad, husband, Second Amendment advocate. I have to say, I guess I'm not a Second Amendment advocate. I am, but I'm also, since you guys don't have a Second Amendment, I am a right of free people to defend themselves, no matter where you're from.
We know nothing of freedom here.
Yeah, you guys have it rough right now, man. It's getting crazy. I mean, we do too. We're not free down here. It's fake. It's and whether it comes to guns, there's just a few things in place that really keeps them from taking over right now, and they're working on getting rid of those. If we're not careful, we're not gonna be far behind. But I'm a trainer. I teach folks guns, teach folks how to fight, and try to positively influence people's lives in the process. And that's me.
Excellent. Nice. So you have a training company. What's that company called?
Shaw Strategies.
Nice.
You can find it at shawstrategies.com.
Shawstrategies.com.
And what aspects do you train there? You said you're a firearms trainer, but what sort of practices?
Yeah, I mostly do. I stick into the defensive distances type things, and maybe there's some offensive application there, maybe increase distance a little bit. But I typically do just handgun and carbine. I think you guys would say carbine.
We do.
But you guys also pronounce Z much cooler than we do as well. But I wish we said Z down here. I wish it was acceptable because so much better when you guys say it.
You know what? Every trend was set by one person.
Every what?
Every trend was set by one person who was dared enough not to follow the pack.
I should do that.
You should do that. Yep. You could start it. We'll come down and visit, and we'll be like, "Hey, everything is Zed from here on in."
Think of all the accolades you'd receive.
Mm-hmm.
Mind blowing.
Would he get that in Texas? I'm not sure. Be like, what is that pig Latin you're talking? What's a Zed?
Yeah, I don't think it'll go over well. I don't think it'll work.
No.
But no, I handgun for defensive. Use a handgun, carbine. I do some law enforcement stuff, and I've got some classes. I mean, not just like sitting down on a bench shooting, but you're going to work. You're going to solve problems. You're going to get tired. Your hands are probably going to be a little. You often get a little blood on your hands, not from getting shot or staples this time, but from working the controls. I cause a lot of problems, teach people how to solve problems, and not just shoot. I think that's the easy part. Shooting guns and being accurate and repeating that process over and over again doesn't really change. Everything around it does, and it's greatly based on your environment, your application, and what the surrounding has to say and the bad guy has to say, and we try to encounter some of those problems.
Nice. And how has the training courses been with COVID? Have they still been going on, or?
I canceled one, and I usually don't cancel classes for anything, unless even if I've only got a few people there. Like I do not normally cancel classes, but I had one right in the middle of COVID, like March when it was at its worst, and there was a lot of folks really concerned and scared about we don't know what's going on here, and we were fed all kind of stuff, that the world's ending tomorrow. Everybody's going to get COVID, and a large percentage of us are going to die. And we thought this was like Stephen King's The Stand. And so I canceled that class, and I shouldn't have. But that was the only one I had to cancel. And other ones have been good. Even my last class I did in November in Conway, Arkansas, like I man, I could not have had any more room in it. It was completely filled. So I had a pretty good year on the training side.
Nice.
Very good.
So, go on, Kris. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I wanted to ask you specifically because I was taking a look at your website, specifically looking at the classes section, and something that really interested. There were two things that kind of caught my eye. The first I'll ask you about is the Kalash vitals, because you've got a class specifically for carbine vitals. You notice I said carbine, and then you've got a class for Kalash vitals, and I'm assuming that that's just Kalashnikov versus AR based training. But like, really, tell me the differences other than the obvious between those two types of classes.
So I have a system that I found works great. Worked great in the military. Works great now with a brand new shooter. Works great with a SWAT cop. And I do a lot of the same things in my handgun class that I do in my rifle class. The rifle ends up branching off, going a different direction. The handgun class goes in a little bit different direction. The AK class goes in a little bit different direction as well. But how the system I go through and the drills I use and what we're doing are often very similar from class to class, because I found that they work. The point gets across to the shooter. They become a better shooter. They understand how to think. They become a safer shooter. It generates questions that they can ask to help them learn how to learn and ask the right questions. So the system works well. But what it does, is that my cat like going crazy?
It sounds like it.
You guys hear that?
A little bit.
I'm sorry. You might get the dog barking too. I got family coming by.
It's white noise.
Yeah, it's extra content. You guys owe more money. It costs extra.
Your invoice is in the mail. Yeah.
The cat's gonna bill you. But to the AK class, we start out with AK manual of arms. So a little bit of like Russian manual of arms, as I understand it, and also Western manual of arms, how we would use it if we employed that gun as a battlefield pickup. Like I used to teach Marines, we'd pick up this gun because your gun's down or whatever reason, grabbing an AK off the battlefield. Here's the tactics and techniques and keeping this gun running and feeding it and using it, zeroing it, all that stuff. So a lot of those things are different than in your AR that most people show up to carbine class with. Mm-hmm. And if somebody shows up to regular carbine class with an AK, I usually add in, when I'm talking about reloads with a rifle or stoppage clearances, I'll grab that person's AK and show it to them, but they'll get the 2-minute version, not the detailed in the weeds version of why this is with the AK and this and that and everything else. So the AK is just, the Kalash class is just tailored for running the AK. There's a lot of people out there who just love AKs. I love AKs. If I were going to a gunfight tomorrow, I'm taking an AR. But if I'm going to read a book or watch a documentary, the AR is like the most boring thing ever. But AKs are just the history of them and everything else. There's so much to do with the AK that's awesome. They're on multiple country flags. When you see them pop it up in countries, like either bad guys are taking over or good guys are regaining control. It's AK is just an awesome historical piece. It's been argued that it's I think C.J. Shivers in his book Gun mentioned something about and he saw a lot about the AK. The Holy Bible, the Quran, and the AK are like the most recognizable things on this planet. Know what those three are.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Do you find you get different type of clientele when you do the Kalash class, or is it, would you say that Kalash guys or AK guys are different than typical carbine guys? Or
I would say that, and I try to schedule them in cold months when I'm doing the AK class. Like when it's cold and I hope it's raining and I hope it's miserable and I hope it's like we're covered in mud, because AK people, like to get a little bit rough.
Yeah.
You might have a guy show up with like some super Gucci AR and, he's sipping his coffee, with his pinky out. The AK guys look like Rooster over here. They got a beard, like they haven't showered in a few days.
Yeah, it covers the scars.
They just drove in from that morning, like they were welding all night. Like, so that's the AK guys.
You know what really threw me off is when you said you zero an AK. Like,
well,
who in the fuck has ever done that?
How do you hit anything if you don't zero?
Exactly. That's my next question.
You could just stormtrooper it, couldn't you?
Precision rifle stuff, right?
Spray and pray.
We're not just a precision rifle podcast. Let's and I love how the thumbnail on your website is you mortar clearing a stoppage.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Right.
Good backswing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got a good foot and a half off the ground. Like you're gonna hammer that thing. The hard Texas soil, right?
Cartridge.
Yeah. Oh, sweet.
Well, the second one I wanted to ask you about that kind of caught my eye is the active killer defense. And that seems like something that, like, in terms of like contribution to your community, that seems like a pretty solid type of thing. Tell me about that class. What kind of stuff do you guys do in that class?
So I haven't taught that class in quite a while. But I can still teach it, and I'm still involved with it. But Ryan Hoover and I from Fit to Fight, he's out of North Carolina, has multiple Fit to Fight affiliates. Him and I designed that after an active shooter event where we just we kept seeing these things and talking about it, and we had side conversations about what we could actually do. From my perspective, being a guy who knows guns. And knows how people act and think when the gun in their hand and what they're trying to accomplish with that, and him from the martial arts side. Ryan is a very, very practical guy. And I say that because I've ran into a lot of folks and trained with a lot of folks who will do some Kung Fu Ninja stuff that looks really great and sounds awesome if you grab the right wrist with the right wrist up and the right angle, and that's Ryan doesn't really. I've always been impressed by Ryan's depth of knowledge and understanding of real violence, not dojo violence. Yeah. And so Ryan and I linked up. He actually flew out to me, and we hung out for a few days and just worked on building a skeleton for this program. And then we continued to work on it for a few months and built up a program and an instructor development course. And we have people all over the U.S. and I think 1 or 2 people in Canada teaching active killer defense now. And we try to do it for like free or close to it, and let some teachers come for free, because this whole idea was like, so some school teacher isn't got her kids in a corner covering their kids' eyes with their arms while they all get shot. There is a better thing to do for those children, and it's fight back. And here are some tools how to fight back. People have been, we say run, hide, fight all the time. People have been running and hiding since they were a kid. We don't need to teach people how to run and hide. Maybe they need to understand when to run and when to hide, but people need to be given permission and understand the skills and knowledge they need to be able to fight. There's things that you can do that don't take years and black belts worth training to do, that you can stop a guy coming in a room leading with a gun, that we can create a delay, we can get the kids out of the room, we can save a life, we can cause a stoppage in the gun. We cover a lot of things in that class, plus a medical piece, because there's no reason that in 2020 that every school on this planet should not have people that are trained enough to stuff a wound, to pack a wound with some dressing, to throw on a pressure dressing on a pediatric, because that's pretty much going to act as a tourniquet on an extremity, throw on some chest seals. There's no reason why people are bleeding to death in 2020 with adults around, and they should have the skills and knowledge and the tools to do it.
Well, and not just schools, but in places of work as well. Like, I work for an American-based company, and when I took my orientation, there was active shooter training during that, and the security protocols and that sort of thing. But like you said, run, hide, fight. Sometimes that isn't necessarily conducive to stopping an event. And like you said, people are going to get hurt. People need to know how to effectively, like you said, pack a wound, apply a proper tourniquet, and that's where courses like this come into effect. So props to you, man. That's stellar.
Yeah, that trauma response is something that is just not a priority in at least in this country anyway. I would assume for most of North American society, it's it could never happen. So
even like how many guys at the range pack a trauma kit or a tourniquet? Nobody. I've never seen a single guy besides me.
So we changed that here. We have totally changed that in the last, I would say, 4 years in the U.S. You're going to have you will not go to a training class with a reputable instructor and not have 90% of every student has a trauma kit, a bigger one in their bag or by their gear, and one on their body. Oh, wow. Like it's there's been a lot of people out there, that are bigger names than mine, and from all the way down, to local level where nobody else outside of the state or city has ever heard of them. But people are pushing medical hard. We created a culture. I'm not sure exactly what magic we did. If we can get people to stop arguing about like 9mm versus 45 and what a magazine is called, if it's a clip or not, and talk about how smart we are. If we could get them to put that level of focus and energy that we did for the changing the culture on medical and trauma care over to like actually getting things done and fighting for, maintaining our rights, we'd be getting some work done.
Yeah. So last year, sorry, Chris.
Go ahead.
Last year, Call Sign 66 put on a couple of courses out at my range there. And the one time they brought Johnny, and I can't remember his last name, but he's in medical. And he took us through a whole bunch of that trauma stuff and packing wounds and all that kind of shit. And man, it'd be good to have him out again.
Yeah, it's not rocket surgery. It's really not.
It's not. No. But the thing is, if you don't go through those motions, and I mean, you can probably get by if you're reasonably level-headed. But like
you'd be surprised though.
Oh, absolutely! I've seen grown men running around squealing like little girls in a traumatic event. The big tough guys that outside of that, they're the toughest guy on the fucking planet. You put them face to face with an event like that, and they have no fucking clue what to do.
It's just about whether you're prepared to deal with a crisis or not. That's exactly. You're talking about how you handle the stress response is what you're talking about.
Well, and once you get that adrenaline dump too, right? Like
to be fair, organized training, like when people are doing training courses, I mean, most of the ones that I've been to, all of the Maple Seeds, for example, I mean, they've got trauma kits there and they're dealing with that. I think when you guys were talking about it before, you were meaning mostly like when, people aren't going to the range for their own range day with trauma kits, and the average person at the range still has no idea of what they're doing. And I was wondering, Daniel, because you were saying that you guys have kind of changed that culture. Is that something that you see like on a general range day? People all have their own trauma kits, or is it just at courses?
If I went to like a local outdoor shooting range around here, there would probably be a small percentage of bays where shooters are that have shooters on there with trauma kits right there with them. And these would be the more switched on people. They're also the ones that are probably shooting the best. They're also the ones that put more thought into this. They didn't just go buy like some crappy gun and they go out and plink. Like they are serious about self-defense. So I guess for the majority of people out at ranges, if they're beyond just the hobbyist level and they carry the gun for defense and they put any reasonable level of research in it, as far as in the defensive context, then they have probably quickly graduated to, I need to know how to do some medical stuff. Maybe I don't need to know it very well, but I need to have something with me. And that's what I'm saying that we've done a really good job with in recent years.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Well, and I wish that culture can come up here, because last year at the charity shoot, they had a Stop the Bleed course that went really well. I think they had 15 or 16 people that took that course. But that has to happen multiple times a year throughout the country to start building that culture up. Like you said, stop arguing about the petty bullshit about 9mm versus 40 versus 45 or whatever, and start focusing on the shit that matters. Because when you get, or guys specifically, why I brought you on, Daniel, is to highlight some profile trainers that are in the marketplace that can offer courses like this. Because I took a couple Earl Green courses from Phase Line Green Tactical, and that changed my perspective on everything. It's not just, hey, I'm running a Colt LE 6920 at the range and I'm plinking at a 25-yard target. It's no, you're dynamic, you're moving, you're operating that firearm safely with the proper manual of arms. And when you do get that adrenaline dump in a scenario like you're talking about, in an active shooter scenario, can you perform under stress? And that's why I brought you on, to kind of highlight that sort of thing. So props to you, man. That's great. Do you see now, instead of talking about ARs and Kalashnikovs and that sort of thing, do you see a predominance more so leaning towards pistol caliber carbine?
I think the market is trying to push people toward pistol caliber carbine. People who fight with guns or carry a gun for duty are not exactly interested in pistol caliber carbines. We went through that game. When I first went in the Marine Corps, I was doing some like hostage rescue stuff, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever, and it kind of was at the time. And they were using MP5s. I thought that was like so cool that this team I was with had MP5s, and I still had an M16A2. I was like, why am I not running an MP5? As I get older and learn more things, I'm like, man, why were they using an MP5? They should have been using the same gun I was using. Like handguns absolutely suck. They are garbage. If we're carrying a gun because I need to change somebody's behavior, because they're doing something, they're hurting somebody else, they're a threat to me, a threat to somebody I care about, or somebody I don't know, and they're ending lives or trying to. I don't want to fight them with a handgun. The thing that's going to work the most accurate, the fastest, that's going to cause the most damage and have the highest chance of incapacitating that person is a rifle. And it is a significant difference between a 5.56 round and a 9mm round. The amount of kinetic energy, the damage that happens there. So to me, I think handguns are absolutely. It's what I have to carry because I can't fit my AR in my bag or in my pants, right? So it's like. But the rifle, why I would want to go to a fight with a pistol caliber carbine, I cannot think of a single reason other than because I can accomplish the same thing with a 300 blackout rifle and get it just a small, and I can put it in a bag if that's what I need to do. I personally, I think they're a lot of fun. I think pistol caliber carbines are a really good time, and sometimes if you can save some money in ammo, depending on what you're doing. The recoil management, teaching somebody, that learning how to use the gun, or maybe they have some physical issues. There may be some different advantages there, but for me personally, I see zero reason for me to own a pistol caliber carbine for defensive reasons.
Now, I've seen circulating on certain forums that a lot of guys are using pistol caliber carbines for home defense, comparative to a 223 5.56 AR-15. Is that a myth? Can you elaborate on that? Or?
One of the arguments is, oh man, that rifle will go through like your whole house and then into your neighbor's house. And I would argue if you've ever shot through sheetrock and general walls in the house, you need to go ahead and expect like somewhere between 5 and 7 walls of penetration. Whether you're using buckshot, whether you're using 5.56 round, whether you're using a 9mm, any of those things, it doesn't matter. It's going through multiple walls until it hits something that makes it stop. Now, your ammo choice in that caliber
neighbor you don't like
is very important.
Well, and when say you're shooting somebody, not that I've never done this, but from 5 to 7 yards, say in a home defense scenario, and you're shooting with a whatever 5.56 round, as soon as that projectile is hitting that target, it's essentially losing almost half of its energy. And say it leaves that target and goes into the wall, it's going to lose half of that energy, and it just continues on from there and there. Now, is that a myth as well? Because that's what I have in my head.
I don't know. I'm not a ballistician, so I can't say that every time it hits intermediate barrier that it's going to reduce half. I think there's a lot of things that come into play there. The velocity, bullet weight, the material that it's hitting. But one of the things that we want to have happen if we've got a good ammo choice is I want to select ammunition that's not going to go right through this person. I want that guy who's coming into my house trying to hurt me and my family. I want his body to absorb 100% of the kinetic energy of that round. I don't want any to escape out of his back. I want it all to be displaced right there and displace things in the body because that's how I'm increasing my chances of incapacitation or making them stop through some various incapacitation theories.
Yeah, your goal is to minimize his threats, right?
Yeah, I want to get ammo. I don't want to shoot hardball ammo. I don't want to shoot something that's just going to zip right through them. I want that round to stay in the body and their body to have to absorb all that energy.
Interesting.
Well, you can't say stuff like that on a Canadian show. feelings.
Well,
I'm not saying I'm trying to kill them. The whole point here, is make them stop.
Yeah, you're trying to eliminate the threat. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and eliminate the threat in the safest way possible. And the safest way possible is make the person who has surrendered their right to live, make them absorb that bullet and not go somewhere else in the background.
Yeah.
So,
and frankly, that's not a lot different than what's going on in Canada, because even in hand-to-hand self-defense in Canada, a lot of times what we're even teaching up here is that if you have to defend yourself physically, you have to do it as aggressively. They're talking like violence of action, right? It has to be as fast and as aggressive as you can possibly make it, and you have to be able to sustain it until your attacker is no longer a threat. Yeah. And that your attacker is no longer a threat when they are on the ground and they are not getting back up and trying to hurt you. And it seems to me that it's very much the same sort of thing, whether your defense of choice is a firearm or a friggin' golf ball or golf club or whatever it happens to be, whatever's available to you. If you live in Canada where you don't have the ability to have a firearm to defend yourself, right?
We're in some really interesting times right now. There's tons of video coming out. That there's a little bit now, but it was a few months ago. It was a lot more than there is right now. So much video of people being violent in mobs, and groups, with the riots that were going on. And these people, a lot of them have, this is all over America. It's all over Canada too. I think it's all over the world right now. It's because of social media.
Mean peaceful protests?
That too. Yeah.
Come on.
Social media, the group think that we have, where some celebrity says, I think this. And I want to think that too. And you're not part of our cool club if you don't think that as well. Let's all get online and let's agree, and let's be an echo chamber and never grow. Let's just be a bunch of morons with a really huge worldview without ever actually seeing the world with our own eyes. So that's what we have in the U.S. all the time right now. They have so many opinions without having any basis for those opinions, and never, like, they'll tell me how America's like a third world country, and I'm like, how many third world countries you've been to? Like, I've been to many.
How many
of them,
third world countries have health insurance?
And I don't know when the last time you saw like a cop grab a little boy, take him behind the corner, and rape him after he stole everything from the store. That's third world country stuff, right? Like, we're not in a third world country. There's a big difference right here than where we're at. The law is completely lawless. Like, this is we're not there. But what we saw here with all these riots and all these things that were happening is an observation that I made was, and I was talking to somebody about it last night. There's so many of these people with these big world views without any experience in the world. They think they know what violence is.
Yeah.
They think they know what force is.
Yeah.
They have never seen it. They have never seen a person that's trained their whole life, that has a mindset, that has made the decisions about what they're going to do on this night 20 years ago, right? They knew, they planned this forever. They prepared for it, and they've had multiple experiences in their life where they've turned on extreme violence before. Maybe they went to combat, in Afghanistan, Iraq, or Africa or somewhere, and then they've got experience, and they know what it's like to switch that on and then switch it back off and come home and then turn it on again when they need to. And they run across some of these people sometimes. And when they run across these people, if you listen to their voices, and when they're saying call 911, they want to call the police that they're protesting against. They want to the way they're acting, the way they get hysterical, they just completely freeze up and they have no idea how to react. They're just locked right there.
You saw that in the CHOP videos.
Yep.
Guy gets shot, or an Antifa guy gets shot, and next thing you know, they're screaming at the police because the police won't send an ambulance in to deal with the guy, and the ambulance won't come in until it's safe. But
I'm not sure what you expected here,
right? But when these people are introduced, like you said, with just extreme violence and boldness and violence of action in what you're doing, in most cases, hide your intentions. When we talk about concealment, people think, oh, I got to conceal my guns, or I don't print, so I don't see it. There's so much more deeper than that in concealment. It's concealing your intentions, concealing what you're observing, concealing what you may know about the situation, or what you may know about responding to that situation. You're concealing everything about that, especially your intentions. And then when it's time to turn it on, it's a complete surprise, and it's 100% violent. You've turned violence all the way to 11. And then, as soon as it's over, you may be helping somebody and being, saving a life by plugging a wound somewhere. So it's not that we're violent people. It's just, we possess the capability to do this. And some of us have a better understanding of real violence than others do. And I find from watching all these videos that, man, that is the answer in a lot of these situations, especially the riots that we saw, and this younger generation that thinks they can understand what violence is. You show them real quick, and they're like, that's not a game I'm ready to play.
Yeah. Doug brings up a good point here. Where is it? Thanks, Sean. When someone loses respect for my life, they lost it for theirs too. End of story. And you were talking earlier, and immediately came to mind that a lot of the response that you get for home defense stuff is you value your possessions more than you value a life. No, that motherfucker valued my possessions more than he valued his own life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
I want to bring you back
about
for a second, Daniel, because it's a really, for me, it's a really interesting thing in the industry that I'm in. We have so many people who like to think that they know what violence is, because the reality is that we are practicing violence. The biggest difference being that my life has never been on the line. When I stepped in the ring, I was not worried about having to kill him or him killing me, because there's a referee in there that's going to stop everything if one of us hits the ground, right? And something that I've always found interesting and I've always really appreciated is the people in let's call it martial arts, combatives industry, whatever you want to talk, whether it's a martial arts setting specifically or whether it's self-defense setting, the people who have served, frankly, who have seen real violence where life is actually on the line. And it's exactly what you were talking about. You can see the perspective when somebody is talking from a position of perspective because they have experienced it, and whether they're relaying combat experience back to civilian self-defense or not, you can, when you're aware of that difference, you can just tell the people who are frankly just speaking from a level of experience, right? And those are the people that you have to listen to rather than rather than the Russian chi masters with their touchless, self-defense and all that sort of goofy stuff. It's a really interesting dynamic to experience, being someone who didn't serve but has practiced controlled violence, for the majority of his life, to see that perspective of the people who also practice that controlled violence but have the experience of actual violence, right? It's I think that both the firearms industry and the self-defense industry need to understand and respect people with your perspective more, I think, is what I'm getting at.
And the way you word that, but the way you explain all that, that it shows your intellectual maturity, and not assuming things that really you don't know. You don't know how until you've ran to a fight where you can die in that fight or any minute. You don't know how you can perform in those situations. You have no idea. You haven't been tested, and that's I did some things that I've got awards for in the Marine Corps in combat. And I'm very proud to show my kids that. And, if somebody gets close to me, comes over, we're talking or something, I might let them read it and stuff, and like a medal, and it's these are very important to me, but not because it's a medal or a piece of paper. It's because I was fortunate, man. Like, so many men have lived and died and never actually got tested, never actually got tested where I could do this and save this person's life, but I have to risk it all right here. The chances of me dying are great, but I have to go risk it all to do this. And a lot of folks have went through life and they never have been fortunate enough to have that. And I think I'm incredibly fortunate to be in that situation where, I was tested a few different times and I passed those tests, from my own, and I'm my strictest, rubric. So I passed it from my own standards. But Rooster said something a few minutes ago when he was talking about, the big tough guys who are always the loudest and everything else. And they're, until something actually happens. And, there's a lot of folks in the U.S., trying to begin call to arms and different things. And it means absolutely nothing to me when a person who has actually never been tested says, hey, let's go fight. Because they're going to be like, let's go, guys. And then like mosey into the background a little bit while everybody else is. Because you don't have any right sending anybody to their death, and for something when you have no idea what you're trying to convince them to do. You have no clue. And that's the other thing that happens in this group think, and it's happening in our culture, the gun culture, the self-defense culture, and it keeps seeping in more every day. And I don't know how to get rid of it, but it needs to go. But this idea of you guys curse on the show?
Oh, fuck yeah.
I
don't usually curse on shows, but this idea that we value men who give zero fucks. I'm like, oh man, he's got zero fucks to give. And we value that. Like, that is not something we should be valuing. That is a horrible idea. That is not something that we should be doing, condoning whatsoever. A man should be measured by how many fucks he actually gives, and the caliber and the level of things that he cares about, not how much he doesn't care. If you don't care, you're a sociopath. Like, we don't want those carrying guns, training, protecting.
Any fucking idiot can do that.
Yeah.
Right. So like that whole culture has to go away. And usually the loudest and most boisterous and obnoxious person in the room is typically not the most dangerous person in the room.
So how do you handle that when you see one of those individuals like you just described partake in one of your courses? How do you?
Doesn't happen. They don't come to training classes.
No.
Not those kinds. They don't do it. They already have it all figured out. They don't come.
Yep.
You don't get people coming in anyways that'll argue with you, or like, oh yeah, but I saw like this guy did it this way, and like,
I'm sure there must be a few.
Every once in a while, somebody tactful asks that, but I encourage it. At the beginning of my class, I tell everybody that I've been wrong about so many things in my life that I am sure I'm wrong about something today. Yeah. I have been making a living with a gun in my hand for over 22 years. And I can't even tell you how many times I've changed my mind about things. There's things I used to teach 15 years ago that I laugh at now. Like, what a moron I was. And I taught it with like vigor. Like I was right. Like I knew it. And there was no arguing with this. I mean, I was so right. And I thought I was so right. And then come to find out, I'm like, man, I was wrong. Like I shouldn't have been teaching that stuff.
I think we've all been through that. If we really critique ourselves. No, that's right.
Yeah. So I've been wrong about so many things that I tell them in the class, like I'm the most right I've ever been, but chances are I'm going to teach you something that in a year or two from now, I'm going to think that I shouldn't have taught this. There's a better way to do it because more information is available. So because of that, I want you to question everything that I tell you. I don't want you to be like, oh, well, the guy said that this was good, so that's what I want to do. If I tell you to do something a certain way, I usually give you how, why, and where it fits in reality. And what problems it solves. But if there's more to it, I want you to question everything. I don't want you to not, if you watch a gun review on the internet that I do, or read one that I write, or you watch some other YouTuber or something like that, you should question every single thing that they say. Some of them are lying, right? Some of them are wrong. Some of them have the wrong information, but they mean well.
Agenda.
Right? Like, but you've got to question everything.
Yeah.
But the road to hell was paved in good intentions. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we should highlight maybe what Mike is saying. He's highlighted, the Dunning-Kruger effect, and now he's given a definition of it. So for the audio people listening afterwards, I guess I'll just read it out. But the Dunning-Kruger effect, this is Mike's words, is a cognitive bias in which people wrongly overestimate their knowledge or ability in a specific area. This tends to occur because a lack of self-awareness prevents them from accurately assessing their own skills. Well, essentially what he's saying here is the dumber you are, the less you are aware of how dumb you are.
Right. Yeah.
I think
you're so fucking stupid. You don't know how stupid you don't even know how fucking
stupid you are.
Yeah,
exactly.
I know.
I think we can really break. I've thought this for a long time. You can break society into just a couple of different groups as far as that's concerned. I think you've got the vast majority of people, and we're talking about civilians that have never served, that have never done anything dangerous in their life, that are really just not capable people, I think, who they're the people who are screaming the loudest on social media about gun control, about zero tolerance.
Well, these are the people that have been coddled through all of their entire fucking life.
That is the height of the Dunning-Kruger effect, I think.
They have never known hardship. I've said this for many years, and I maintain this, that it's because they've never known hardship.
But then you've got
walk and holler.
Then you've got the next category of people who have experienced a level of hardship. Maybe, they don't fight in terms of for fun, like sport, martial art, whatever, but are at least aware enough to know. And I think a lot of times these people have family that are vets or friends that are vets and that sort of thing, but at least they know enough to know that they have never seen anything real in their life. Then you've got people, I think I would fit into this category, who have practiced controlled violence, sport violence, call it, for a long time. And in some way, I think that the people in that category can at least imagine what it would be like to maybe serve, let's say, in combat. And then you've got the other end, which is vets who have actually put that to the test. Like even people like me, I can sit here and say, well, I think I can imagine what it would be like in combat. But the reality is I've never had a bullet whizzing past my head. I don't know what the sound of a bullet whizzing past my head actually sounds like.
You've never looked into the eyes of another man whose intention is to end your life.
No.
You know,
That's the reality, right?
This might
You've
blow
never
your
met
mind,
my sister,
but
have
I have a take that may be different than some combat veterans that are trainers out there.
Okay.
I know people. I know a lot of Marines who have been in combat. Some of them were right next to me in firefights, and your academic study, your academic knowledge of violence that you have been studying for years and teaching for years, and I believe you don't truly know something until you teach it. And because you have to go back and evaluate those fights that you're in, you have to go back and look at these things from those eyes, those researcher eyes, not just from what I experienced or what I wanted to develop, what I wanted to feel like I did, in that fight, but like really looking at it without the ego and seeing, what can I take away from this? There are plenty of people with actual combat experience that are less qualified to teach violence than you, even though they've experienced that. They don't possess the tools to dissect actually what really happened. They don't possess the tool to take those takeaways and then package those in the right way and then transfer that knowledge to somebody else in a way that, and here's the biggest problem that a lot of combat vets have is making it practical and relevant to that regular armed citizen. There's most everything that I experienced in combat and in training in the military does not carry over to the armed citizen carrying a gun at 2 a.m. at the gas pumps or in a home defense situation. There is a percentage of it that does, and there's a lot of little small things that do. There's a lot of mindset things that do. There's a lot of training mindset things. There's a lot of decision making that does. But the actual actions in employing the gun and carrying the gun and the team environment versus the by yourself, there a lot of that does not translate.
Interesting. That's interesting you say that. I've never considered that.
Mm-hmm. Well, how the hell do you even prepare someone for that scenario? Like, how do you teach that? Especially if you have been in combat, you've seen that, you've had those thoughts of my fucking life could be over like in the next several seconds.
I've asked myself that question. I tried to put that in my carbine class and my handgun class. So there was a fight that I was in that I started going down this rabbit hole of visualizing myself die and looking at other bad guys dead, the way they fell. Like, why would you fall that way? That doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect the dirt to turn that color with the blood hitting it, and that. I didn't expect this. Like, just observing things that your mind's going and picking up all kind of little things that don't matter, kind of a defense mechanism. And I've talked to a lot of other people in stressful situations where there's dead children around and dead people around in some active shooter scenarios and stuff. And they observe these really strange things. And, that was my experience. And I don't know the technical term for it. But one thing we called it in the military was precognition, not like Minority Report, Tom Cruise precognition, but like I'm visualizing myself die. I'm seeing myself, like I thought when I got off of this AAV and turned left, I'm going to see my chest come out in front of me because I'm going to get shot in the back and it's going to explode in front of me. I was visualizing myself and I realized, like, wow, there's bad guys there and there. I need to move my machine gun. That's a great spot for a machine gun. Why am I not moving my machine gun team over there? And I need to move my guys over this wall. So I actually thought back to years prior to that when I was a young Lance Corporal or Private First Class, I can't remember, where I was in a dark room with like mold all over it and some really old building. And I was getting a PowerPoint presentation about combat stress and the things that'll try to enter my mind and how I will start thinking and how I will see these unnerving sights and sounds and I will start dissecting things and my mind will race to something else and I'll get tunnel vision on something that doesn't matter. I need to back up and see the full picture and all that stuff. And I actually recalled training. I recalled a PowerPoint presentation in the middle of a firefight and that recollection of that power. So I believe that just a conversation. I believe truly, because I've experienced myself, that somebody listening to this podcast right here, if there's some things that I say or you say that are accurate and they are relevant to what happens to them, that they could recall this podcast, this information, maybe not verbatim, but the spirit of what we're talking about right there, mid-fight, and then make a decision. Because for me, I recall that like that's what Scotty was talking about.
Right.
And I was like, this is what Scotty was talking about. And I was like, I've got to back away from this and free my mind to think tactics and what we're doing right here.
Mm-hmm.
And that took me out of that.
You're blowing my mind right now. Okay.
Yeah, go
Here we go. Okay. So while you were saying that, exactly what I was thinking was my third kickboxing fight when we were in the we were third round, right? And I'm exhausted. I can see that he's exhausted. We're kind of circling each other. Nobody's really doing anything. And both of us are just deathly afraid of getting a hit that's going to knock us out. And I can remember in that moment thinking about a specific training session that I had where I was told that when in doubt, just go with the 1-2 jab cross. And I just reacted right through the jab cross. There was like maybe 15 seconds left in the round, and it hit him with both. And ended up with the nose explosion, good fun stuff. And it was my coach believes to this day that was what turned it ended up going to a decision, and that was what turned the decision in my favor. And I don't know why, but it was all I could think of when you were saying that in the moment you analyze, you self-reflect in the moment.
Fall back on your training. Right?
Yeah, but it's almost like in a slow-mo way, but not in a slow-mo situation.
Almost
a deja vu kind of thing.
Almost, I guess.
Almost like you've been here before. I
don't know. But it's just interesting that you're saying
cool.
You're talking about combat, and it made me think about something in sport, right?
Yeah, no, but I think we experienced the exact same thing, and because you recalled that training. Now, another cool part of this to the next level, I believe that the better we are at the fundamentals, the more our mind is free to think tactics.
Right. Exactly.
So I don't teach anything advanced. I have a class that people say, "Oh, this is your advanced class, right?" And I'm like, "Well, no, it's we're doing the fundamentals with more things surrounding it that create problems for us." So it's I'm just an advanced application of the fundamentals, or a not so comfortable application of the fundamentals. And so if we have this, if we're so good at the fundamentals that my mind is free to think tactics and make decisions, my mind is freed. I've got the mental bandwidth to recall training. I've got the mental bandwidth to analyze a situation and maybe go a couple steps ahead. In your case, if you're like me, when I used to box, the first time I went in the gym, the dude made me throw punches for 2 weeks straight. I mean, jabs. Mm-hmm. Like I would be driving my 1986 Toyota pickup with one hand, changing gears because my left arm doesn't work. It's just hanging there. Yeah. I can't do anything because I threw so many jabs that day. Light turns green, jab. Light turns red, you can rest for a second. And that. So you were probably really good at that jab, right cross. So you didn't need to think about how you're going to throw that straight jab and then you're right. All you thought was like, I practiced this. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And then you did it without thought, like the Japanese call bushin. And that is training coming full circle.
Yeah.
How do blackouts apply? I just think back to my hockey and street fighting days. Hey, Rooster, nice fight there. I'm like,
I think the
I won, right?
I think the different variable there is alcohol.
Oh no, no, not that.
Not the fun.
I used to be that guy that I got my ass kicked a little bit when I was younger, but after I learned a few things, you stick your head down and you just fucking lose it. That was my strength
strategy.
Yeah. The blackout. Hey, you remember when you hit that guy with that? No.
Nope. No, I don't. Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah.
It's over, right?
Can I bring you back to the another thing that you were talking about? You were talking about practicing fundamentals, techniques, that sort of stuff, and you were really describing visualization, but almost like a negative visualization. Mm-hmm. You're saying you're turning the corner, you're visualizing what would happen if your chest exploded, you get shot in the back, that sort of thing. Do you see a value to negative?
There we go.
What the hell that was? Oh, that's your dog. Hey,
yeah.
puppy.
Cujo.
Yeah.
Do you see a value to a negative visualization like that in that scenario, or do you think that positive visualization would be more valuable?
Look, that's a tough one, man. I'd have to call up some human factors and psychologists, scientists, friends of mine that are super ninjas at that stuff, because there's some things that our bodies do that we're hardwired to do since we were, running from animals that were trying to kill us, when we had spears and, we didn't even know how to make fire, at the time. So it's like there's some things that are some survival things for us that are really good things that maybe I don't understand. For me, in that situation, I didn't see really any positives in the negative thoughts. They were taking up a lot of my mental bandwidth. We have a finite amount of things that I can solve at a time and think about at a time and evaluate and process at a time. And I should not be allowing these negative thoughts of my impending doom to take up mental bandwidth that I should be applying to keeping my Marines alive and maintaining contact and killing the enemy. So that would be counterproductive to my mission there at the time. If my mission were to run away, that precognition, I might get shot here if I go out there. Maybe I shouldn't go out there. So those survival instincts, if my mission were run away from that, those negative thoughts may be a benefit for me. But in my situation, I don't think they were a benefit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, a lot of sense.
Yeah, so I can't say, I don't know enough about human psychology and the way we're wired to do things. I do tell people a lot in my classes. I've mentioned on a few podcasts and stuff too, that this is something that I think everyone should realize. And I think if you carry a gun, you should realize this so you can recognize it. If you have to use your gun in a public environment or in your home by yourself, or you're in a very violent situation, or maybe it's not a human violent situation, but it's something that is a danger, environmental disaster or something, you are hardwired in your DNA to survive. Spread your seed, make babies. Like that's the way we are wired that way. That's it. Like there's no arguing that. There's no fighting that. So your first instinct, if a guy has a gun and he starts to shoot somebody and he starts to do something, and you've got your wife and kids that you love more than anything else on this planet. If I were somewhere out with my wife and my kids, let's say my oldest son doesn't live with me, my youngest son, I love this guy more than anything on this planet. Like he impresses me on a daily basis. I could not be more proud of my 10-year-old. He is awesome. I would give my life for him in a second. But I guarantee you, if we were in a situation where there was somebody trying to do somebody harm or do my wife and son harm, the first thing that's going to enter my mind is myself survival. Is myself get myself out, not get my son out of that situation, not get my wife out of the situation. And I've been in these situations. It's not because I'm some pussy and I think I'm going to think so. I've never once been in a situation that the first thing I didn't think that entered my mind was like, you know what, going out there is going to get me killed, but behind this, like it stopped bullets, I should probably stay behind this. But really, it's not the safest thing for me to do. The safest thing for me to do is fight with my buddies and knock these bad guys down. That's the safest thing for myself and for everybody else. But that first thing you look at, the first thing that hits you is like, get out of the line of fire, run around the corner. But if I'm me being with my wife and son, my responsibility is not to protect myself. My responsibility is to when I asked her to marry me, when I had a child, it's my responsibility. They're now my responsibility. Like that until I die, and that's just the way it is. So I have to put that away instantly. And I say instantly, we're talking fractions of a second. Like instantly put that away. Like no, I've got to cognitively make a decision to not do what my body's telling me to do, but to do what I know I have to do because that is my mission. And sometimes what your body, your survival instincts want you to do are counter your mission, and you have to control yourself and get back to your mission. You guys, everybody experiences this before. You've experienced it probably today. When somebody cuts you off in traffic, when somebody does something wrong to you at work, your mission is to maintain a job there, continue to provide for your family, maintain your quality of life and all those things. But somebody pissing you off and you're reacting to that incorrectly and yelling at them or fighting, you just did something that's counter to your mission. You just did something that puts your children and your wives in jeopardy, or same-sex significant other, whatever. You just put them in jeopardy because you couldn't control yourself. So what we're talking about here is self-control. You have to, even though your body wants to do one thing, your temper in that work situation wants to do one thing, your self-control has to take over and say, that's not with my mission. Like, that's outside of my mission. I have to stay with my mission. And I'll just like, hey, all good, buddy, whatever. And not chase that dude down in a road rage incident, or not get in a fight with that coworker. It's the one thing that can get us out of the most trouble and save our life the most. And it's the one thing we get the most opportunities to practice, and that's self-control.
So how do you feel about toxic masculinity?
I don't think it exists.
First, define toxic
We're
masculinity.
talking about the fake masculinity.
Yeah, well, that's a good answer. You're talking about fake masculinity, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I think masculinity, in the true sense of what it is a beautiful thing. It needs to be in every child's life. It needs to be it needs to be in the forefront of our culture. Just like with femininity, we all bring something great to the table, and together it's awesome. And when it's not, they're both missing things. And
absolutely,
it's a team effort.
Fantastic.
I'm just trying to be funny because all the bullshit going on around that, it just fucking drives me nuts.
But again, Rooster, we're talking about like the people who are yelling the most about things like toxic masculinity. They're the exact same people that haven't got a fucking clue what they're talking about, because, like you said, Daniel, they have no lived experience. And
Very well
when
aware.
you're talking about that stuff, I don't think you have to have experienced combat to understand masculinity and femininity, but you have to have at least done something with your life other than sit on Facebook for 10 seconds.
Right.
Luke Godin came up with a question here. How do you deal with switching on and then off? I know if I don't do something immediately after a situation, then think of it. It gets a little overwhelming coming off the instant adrenaline dump. You get what he's saying here?
I think so. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just saying, it sounds like, and this is my interpretation of his question, is that it sounds like he's asking about how do you deal with an adrenaline dump.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, turn that back on, Daniel. There you go.
So switch it on and then off. That's can't be an easy thing.
I think where it helps me is like I know if I don't do something immediately after a situation and think of it, it gets a little overwhelming coming off the instant adrenaline dump. So the instant adrenaline dump, I felt those. I haven't felt one in quite a while, but unless I just see something that's just like really out of place, I tell people another thing in class: don't critique and evaluate yourself in the situation in mid incident.
Right.
There's some level where you're critiquing every little thing that you're doing, and that's okay. That's healthy, I think.
You can assess after,
but
right?
if you over critique in the middle, you're taking up more mental bandwidth at the same time.
Yeah.
Afterwards, like you have a little debrief. How many of us have been in an argument with somebody before, or somebody says something to you and you didn't respond, and you're like, and you went and took a shower that night, and you were like rehabbing that argument.
Time.
You were, and you won that argument in your shower. I handed that dude my ass. And really, what we do that after we feel like we lost something. We feel like we're less of a man, or we feel like we didn't respond in the way that we should have.
Yeah, but I should have said this.
Exactly, and then you have that argument again. You're like, I won. So we do that. That's kind of like a defense mechanism that we do. I think we're all guilty of that. I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing, but yeah, the mid incident thing. Don't critique in it, but switching it on and off, man, it just goes back to what I said a minute ago. For me, it's self-control. I am a firm believer that there are some problems out there that can only be solved with extreme violence, but there's also nice. But there's also a lot of problems out there that could solve before it gets to that with love. Man, and like
hell yes,
I have people who have called me the Matthew McConaughey of the firearms industry because I get a little
all right.
Exactly, I'm all about positivity, and there's nobody ever pays money and spends 2 days of their life when they could do something else, unless they're a sociopath. They come there and train because they want to stay there and protect their family. They want to continue to stay alive and continue to provide for their families, whether this is male or female, because they all come to class. It doesn't matter, who you are. They train out of love. Law enforcement officers who are taking extra training aren't training to kill bad guys better. They're training so they don't have to hurt anybody, and they can keep innocent people safer. They're doing it out of love. It's the opposite of what society would like you to think about the gun-toting people. They're the most loving people, because when everybody else is doing something self-serving on the weekend, they're out doing something that can make their community and their country safer from everything from terrorists to tyranny. And that's what they're doing. And they're out there because of love, not because of hate or want to hurt people.
Right. Yeah. Great answer.
Well,
sorry. I want to take him back to one follow-up because it's related to exactly what he said, and we're totally missing a segue into the TY project, by the way. But so we'll have to remember that for a little bit later. But if we're talking about not about self-reflection of the moment, but if we're talking about the actual physical response to the moment, that actual adrenaline dump when it's just ended and you're sitting there and your hands are vibrating and your head is pounding and your ears are ringing, because I think, and if I'm not wrong, I think Luke wanted to ask you about that as well. Do you deal with that just through experience and repetition, or do you have a method for dealing with that?
Man, okay, you guys are getting into like all the things I like to talk about. This is cool. And, dude, and Luke, if I did not answer your question, or if I don't answer this one properly, shoot me a message, and we'll talk, and I'll make sure that I get to what the meat of what you're looking for, because I don't want to misunderstand and say some bullshit and you're like, that's not even what I asked, because I've been on that end of that before. And so they just hit me up and we'll figure it out. But man, today I got up and I went to work and I worked all day, and then I came home and I jumped on this podcast right when I got home, and I'm missing something that I often do every day, and I didn't do it today, and I feel lazy because I didn't. I believe that every single day I need to go exercise, and not just like a little bit of working out. Like I need to make it's not just the fact that I'm getting more physically in shape. I need to make myself uncomfortable for a prolonged period of time. I need to make myself uncomfortable, and I need to make myself stay in an uncomfortable state for a long period of time, because every second I am uncomfortable and I want to quit, but I choose not to quit. I am training. Like I'm building that warrior spirit. I'm building mental and physical toughness simultaneously. I hate running, but I love running. Like I hate running, but I love having ran.
You love what you get from it.
I don't like running, but I haven't found anything better than long distance running that trains that mental and calluses the body and calluses the mind at the same time as running. And that getting that mental toughness.
Bastard.
Also, we get stronger. I'll eat spicy food that's uncomfortable sometimes because it's just good for you.
Yeah,
that's a little extreme for me. I don't know if I'm a spiky fruit kind of guy, but everything else that you said, like you're like,
I've always said
Yoda
that
now, everything you're saying is 100% resonating. It's fantastic.
My ancestors, if you wanted a letter delivered, you didn't come to my family. If you wanted a stump removed, you came to my family.
But I think that's probably the hardest thing to do, is to purposefully do something that makes you uncomfortable. Hey,
absolutely.
At the beginning, it is, but this is the magic, man. This is what I was with my boss the other day, because we were running, and he's not a runner, and I was like, come on. I was like, he's like, this sucks, man. I'm like, yeah, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with being uncomfortable. So if you're in that question like Luke had, no matter what's happening, the things I did in the Marine Corps, I've gotten soft since doing some of those things out here in the civilian world, being lazy, sitting at a desk and doing everything. I've gotten soft. I am not as mentally tough as I used to. I have to do things now because my job doesn't require me to do things that are uncomfortable most of the time, but sometimes it does. But so I have to do these to myself because I don't want to get super weak. I want to be a guy who is comfortable with being uncomfortable. Now that uncomfortable, maybe it's cold outside. I believe we should be cold, but don't look cold. Especially if you're in front of people. Be cold, don't look cold, especially if you're a leader. Be hungry, don't look hungry. be upset. Don't look upset.
Yeah.
You know, be whatever we may be a certain way, but I'm not gonna look that way in front of people who are looking up to me or subordinates or my wife or my son.
Or
like
peers.
I'm not going to complain. Yeah, I'm going to set a positive example. I might be miserable, but I'm not going to look
strong for your people.
That's it. And I'm faking it. Inside, I'm not happy. And I'm not
You'll
saying
fucking hurt, but you do it anyway.
Right? Because I don't want to bring them down. Like I don't want to be the person that like drives them over the edge, and they're like, I can't take this anymore because it's too hard, and they quit because I accidentally gave them permission because I let them know that I was miserable too. You know, so and so it's not just like a selfish weird thing. I think it's what I'm supposed to do as a leader. It's how I should be. It's how a leader should be. There's things that a leader shouldn't do, and the things that they should do. And I think that's one of them. But the more I want to be a guy who is comfortable with being uncomfortable. So if I am in a risk of losing my life type situation, like that's not the same as going running a half marathon, but it's not that different either in the sense that, okay, I am very uncomfortable in the situation. Like that's what I live for, brother. I love uncomfortableness. Like this is what I do. How am I handling this? You know, it's like, I'm ready for it and I've trained for it and practiced, and not just like training, drawing my gun, shooting, but training the mind and the body. There's a lot of guys out there, Instagram ninjas and people out there who are super fast, who are really good. They've obviously put in tons of work, and I'm sure they've been uncomfortable a lot putting in that work. So in this limited set of skills, they're amazing at them. And I don't know where they are. I can't say for sure where they are in. Can they go out and live in the woods for 2 weeks straight, eating very little food, finding water out of puddles, and being miserably cold every single night and getting very little sleep because they're on watch all night? Like, can they still do that after 2 weeks of that? You know, like, can they work that? That's mental toughness. You know, your body can do it.
Not many people can. You know, it's.
I really don't want to do that right now.
I don't think most of us practice it though, do we? Like in our daily lives, most of us don't. I'll be
with our exes.
In my own little world, I'm guilty of that all the time. You know, you're having a particularly tough week. You know, whatever it is, maybe you didn't sleep good, whatever. And I'm not gonna spar with my guys this week, or I'm not gonna roll with my guys this week,
or I'm gonna order that pizza, or I'm gonna take the easy
whatever it is, right? But that's the. I think you just you just hit the key to the good life there, Daniel. It's developing the skill of being able to make yourself uncomfortable and to seek uncomfortability.
It gets easier, you know, to engage with it, and it's harder to sustain it. But that's why we call, you know, doctors, they don't do medicine, they practice medicine. Yeah. Lawyers practice law. Like we practice self-control. You know, like this is something that I've, you know, I have never really had like anger issues, but I have. There probably was a time where I would get pissed off really quick. I realized one day that what and then later on I found Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor in like 3 different concentration camps, including Auschwitz, and he said that there is a space between stimulus and response, and in that space there's the ability to choose your response to that stimulus, and that is where your freedom lies, because the only thing you can truly control is your attitude.
Curt, what did I just tell you today? I'm going through a bit of a personal issue within my family, and what I leaned on Curt pretty heavy, and I said the only thing to my spouse, I said the only thing you can control is how you react to certain stimuli. You cannot control their response or their initial engagement. You can only control how you respond to that scenario. And that's it. You can choose to ignore it, or you can choose to get angry and pissed off or whatever. But there's
nothing else you can control in life in general. There is nothing else that you totally have control of. Yep. Viktor Frankl, he knew his stuff, man. And so I had came to this idea that I could, if something happened, you know, that maybe aggravated some like PTSD symptoms or like something, I have this ability to cognitively decide that I am not going to respond in this way. I am not going to think of it this way. At the beginning of this, when somebody cuts me off in the road and like I'm like, what, you almost freaking hit me. I'm pissed off. And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, whoa, dude, stop. This is your chance to practice self-control. I'm like, you know what? Why did I do that? I thought I was past that. Now I'm a freaking moron because I started yelling at my windshield, right? And I'm practicing it every day. I'm practicing it, and I get better at it. I don't get upset if my son does something bad. Sometimes I have to pretend like I'm upset. I expect humans to be horrible people. I've seen them at their absolute best, and I've seen them at their absolute worst. If somebody does me wrong and it completely surprises me, that's more my fault than it is theirs. Like I should have anticipated this. It's like humans are always going to be horrible to each other and to me and to other people. Like we shouldn't. There should be no surprise whatsoever. As much as I've lived for a few years, so it's like I've seen enough to like they shouldn't catch me off guard with being bad humans anymore.
No, life is 100% choice. You make the choice to be offended. You make the choice to be mad. You make the choice to be ambivalent.
Yep.
And that's
it. Make a choice for love and hate. Yep.
Absolutely, man. If you witness somebody doing something, you go, okay, well, you could have handled that different, and I could choose to show you a different way, or just let it go and you carry on with what you're doing, and it's all good. I don't know where the hell I was going with this.
You were deep thought, let it all out.
Choice. You're going. That's where you're going with it.
Well, that point was good. That point was good.
And this is a phenomenal conversation, and we went so deep off the rails, Daniel. I appreciate that, buddy. You've given us a lot of insight into what's going on, and I can't.
Me, because I don't care about guns. Like I love what guns do. I love the self-defense side of it. I love training with guns, and I love training with medical. I love seeing myself get faster and better at things. I love seeing progression. I love getting stronger and better. But like I don't really give a shit about guns like themselves. Like
people behind them.
Yeah, and the software's integration with the hardware is what I like. And that's what I try to learn more about. And so I don't know what the barrel's made of that other new gun that came out. Somebody's like, oh, did you see the new gun that came? Probably not, because if it doesn't solve a problem that I have, or doesn't look like it needs to be tested, because it may, I don't really care about it. But like this mindset stuff, this mission stuff, and self-control stuff, like this is what I said when we first introduced myself. I try to teach people to defend themselves and fight and use violence to stop violence, but I also try to help them maybe become a better person at the same time. And at the same time, with that happens, I didn't say it's earlier, but it's true. They make me a better person, and they make me hold myself to the standard that I try to hold them to.
I think we have to take the segue this time. What is the Tango Yankee project?
Tango Yankee project is it's a little poker chip. I don't think I have one within reach of me here. It's a little
share your screen, Sean. Put it up on your screen there.
It's on Instagram. I'll try and find it.
TangoYankeeChip.com is on there too. But somebody did something really nice for me in like late 2014, early 2015, like really nice. And I actually gave him an OD Canadian flag patch, because I had just got back from Canada, and a Canadian Royal Mounted Police officer gave me his patch because he was training with me. And it meant the most to me at that time, because I'd never taught in Canada before. And this guy did something really nice to me, and I had it near me, and I picked it up and I shook his hand and I gave it to him. And I thought, he deserved that. And I wanted him to understand how appreciative I was. So I gave him the thing that meant the most to me right then, because I'm kind of sentimental like that. And I thought for a while about maybe I should get some kind of like challenge coin. And when somebody does something nice for me, I'll give them a challenge coin and say thank you. And then that turned into challenge coins are too expensive. Poker chips are a little bit cheaper. And I told a couple of friends about them. They're like, dude, I want some of those. Can I give some out too? Because like I would love to do that. And then somebody was like, man, you should sell these. And I'm like, that's a great idea. So that's how it started. And so it's just a little stupid poker chip. I got some Marcus Aurelius quotes on there, because he was also another smart dude that had a lot of stuff figured out. And the idea is somebody holds the door for you when their hands are full. They go out of their way. I've got stepdaughters who gave it to their stepdads, and they both cried their eyes out because thank you for being my dad and raising me when you didn't have to. And you shake their hand, you give them the challenge, the Tango Yankee chip, and say thank you. I've seen big, tough military dudes at SHOT Show reconciling issues they had in the past and crying and hugging because this chip got them to say something like, hey, I just wanted to say thank you. It's just a stupid little clay poker chip with something printed on it, but the meaning behind it, I've got about a little over 10,000 of these out in circulation now. And I get emails and messages all the time of amazing stories of how people reconnected with somebody or they thanked a veteran. The last alive flamethrower operator on Iwo Jima has a Tango Yankee chip. Like things like that are just absolutely amazing to me. The way the people had carried you carry around 2 of them in your pocket is what I tell people. And you have these 2 in your pocket. You're looking for one to give away to somebody. You're looking for a stranger or anybody just being kind. And you like, hey, I saw what you did for that person. That was a solid move, man. I just want to say I appreciate that. Thank you. And here you go. Find somebody else doing something solid and hand this chip to them and keep it circulating, keeping it going around. Wow. And you still have 1 chip in your pocket because while you walk around with a chip in your pocket, you're going to find that the magic here is you're going to find that, and this isn't like freaking weird snake oil, man. This is just something that happened that I observed for myself, and people have told me the same thing. You're going to act in a way that is deserving of the Tango Yankee chip. Like you'll remember that. You'll remember that's in your pocket. You'll feel it in your pocket, and it's going to help you with that self-control that we talked about. I know that sounds like crazy stuff, but like, it is freaking magic, and it's just a stupid little clay chip. But what it symbolizes is what matters.
That's incredible.
That's huge, man, and they're priced very effectively too. You can buy a 5-pack for $15.95 US, I presume. You can buy a 10-pack.
That's only $15,000 Canadian. It's really not.
So I tell people too, like to be clear about this. This is a for-profit company, a for-profit movement. I usually call it.
Sure.
That's why I started. I do donate a percentage of profits. If they're selling good, I give more. If they're not doing so great, I need to spend some money in marketing. I don't have as much. So because I've got fees other than just like buying the chips. For doing this whole thing. But I donate to different veteran organizations. Not because this is a charity, because it's not. It's because it's my way to give back and help out. And this started heavily for a veteran thing for me to help do something for vets.
I think that makes it more worthy because you're making something of this that is valuable to the community, not because you're obligated because you've registered a charity. You're doing it because you want to do it.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't want anybody to ever think like, oh, he helps veterans, I should buy Tango Yankee chips. I want you to buy Tango Yankee chips because I want you to spread this attitude of gratitude. Right. And I want to reduce the amount of assholes on this planet. And this is my small contribution to that. I want that to happen. And I also, you're helping out a Gold Star family and a combat veteran when you buy them, because that's my family. But I don't want anybody to ever think that, oh, he helps veterans, let me buy Tango. If your purpose is to help veterans, I want you to donate directly to any of a number of charities that I could point you to, not buy a Tango Yankee chip.
Makes sense. Yeah, wow. Absolutely.
I just never want to make a dime off like veteran suicide. I never want to make a dime off of, because I think there's a lot of folks out there who do some misleading things, and I do not want to be one of those.
Hell yeah. Well, if you guys take a minute, check them out, tangoyankiechip.com. There's multiple different packs. You can get 5, 10, 25, 50 packs and a patch. The patch looks badass, so check them out, tangoyankiechip.com.
You guys send me your addresses. I'll shoot you some patches.
Fuck yeah.
Well,
cool.
I was just going to order one, but if you didn't send me one. I'm getting a 10-pack. I'm getting a 10-pack.
Yeah, for sure.
Damn straight.
Yeah. For sure.
Straight.
Well, thanks, guys. Appreciate that.
So, Daniel, thank you very much. This was phenomenal. There has been so much insight in this podcast. You've really opened up, and I sincerely appreciate that, sir. You're a good man, and I hope you continue to do what you do. Yeah. Do you guys have anything else to add?
You know what? I want to revisit Tint Desjarlais. He's a young fellow that I work with. You know what? And some deep insight came from that young motherfucker. A quote I love and goes along with this choice topic is, all the gods, all the heavens, all the hells are within you, means you are full of evil and good. It's all on what you want to make of the decision or situation. Like, and that is deep stuff as far as I'm concerned. And well done, Clint.
For sure. And that sums up my entire day right there.
There you go.
Way to go, buddy.
Yeah, quick clapping, Curt. You keep turning his light off.
Sure.
I don't have all my lights or anything in here.
Sorry.
So I'm actually using 2 computer monitors from my desktop with Word documents open for lighting, for front lighting here.
And your
then,
screensaver keeps turning on.
yeah, and it turns off. I should have turned it where it doesn't turn off my display, but like that would have been thinking I didn't think ahead. So I'm on my laptop, because it's got the webcam. So
It is what it is.
Yeah.
we got it done.
That's right. Well, we already have a request from friend of the show, Mike Heineck, to have you back again. So
Just say what.
yeah, there you go.
Awesome, buddy.
Hey, Daniel, this has been phenomenal, sir.
I wish we will stay on like topics like this, like being better humans, being better men, and learning and
100%.
and not talk about like what kind of lube I use on my rifle, because I really don't give a shit.
Yeah.
We
You
started
can
off
use
that
anything.
way and then segued into this. So
Well,
This was better.
great.
This was better. This is better than any sort of like tactical shit we could have talked
That's
about
right.
with the AR or whatever else.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
for sure.
It's like how often do you get a chance to actually talk about what the purpose of life is, and
Mhm.
without even meaning to? I think that's what we talked about for the majority of this conversation.
Every week on the First Full Complaint podcast.
What is the answer to life? It is not 42.
Let me know when you figure it out. Actually, 42 is the question.
Oh, that's right. It's the answer. Yeah, that's right.
Well, shout outs. Let's start with the man, Daniel Shaw. Do you have any shout outs this week?
Do I? Hey, I run marketing at Gun Mag Warehouse. The owner of that company just treats me amazingly and lets me do my own thing and lets me do my teaching and lets me be who I am. I volunteer for Team Rubicon. It's a veteran. Well, it's not. We take all kinds, but it's largely veterans, started by veterans. But we get into disasters really early and help people. And I'm a volunteer leader with them, and I love the organization. And if you're, we have Canadians in it as well. There's Canadian chapters and stuff. It's an awesome organization, absolutely amazing. But I went and told my boss, I was like, hey, there's a hurricane just hit, and people are devastated. And I know we got a lot of work to do, and we're coming into fourth quarter. But man, I've been in the office for like a year, and he's like, go hang out in a disaster area and help people. So I spent like a week down there because he let me go, takes care of me, lets me be me. Great organization. And so if you're in the U.S., we don't ship to Canada, but if anybody's listening out there, you're in the U.S., you're supporting a good company, and you're going to get we're busy as heck right now. So you might be a couple of days for your order ships, but I'm sorry about that because everybody's buying magazines. But optics, lights, gear, Gun Mag is a great place to get it. And that's my shout out.
Do it.
ITAR might have something to say about that. But regardless, check them out, gunmagwarehouse.com, correct?
Yeah, can't send them to you guys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. Let's go to Kris. What do you got this week?
Well, you know what? I'm going to shout out just veterans in general. I can honestly say some of the most interesting conversations about life that I have ever had have been with veterans. And there is something about the perspective that must come from, I don't know if it's the culture of just military culture in general, or if it's because of the experience of deployment or whatever it happens to be. Some of the best conversations I've had have been with veterans. So I'm just shouting veterans out in general.
You know what? There's so much shit there, Kris, that they've experienced so much that regular Canadians haven't, and so much that they put in practice and all that kind of stuff that for the safety and sanctity of all other Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
And they, you know what, how many of them are boastful about it? I haven't known a single one.
Not the ones that I've spoken with, but yeah, and I'm not just trying to rub your rhubarb because you're sitting right there, Daniel. But I mean, it's an interesting. I don't know. I don't know. I can honestly say the most interesting conversations I've had have been with veterans.
Hell
That's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, man.
Hell yeah. Curt,
I've had some good ones with them too, and some pretty bad ones.
But maybe I've been lucky enough to avoid the bad ones.
You're either getting like this side or you're getting the dick joke side. So,
I get dick jokes.
Not dick, but jokes.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying.
We easily could have divulged that conversation, but we did not. So thank Christ.
That is so funny. Well, you know what? My usual shout out goes to Bennett Extreme Range Outfitters, and also the veterans here. It's as always, just the stories, the experiences, the what do I want to say, the insight, and the camaraderie that they bring. That's all.
Fair enough. Well, I want to give a shout out to another veteran, Miles Moser at Callsign 66. That man is a phenomenal individual. Has hooked us up with sponsorship on the podcast, but also is currently selling Kestrels for dirt cheap. So if you want to hook up, get to him and hit him up. Callsign66.ca. Send him an email. He will get you the hookup. Yeah, that's about it.
I want a Kestrel.
Well, there you go. We can, just text Miles. He'll give you the hookup. So
he may not ship to the United States, though.
Sure, he will.
He's
Miles
going to get me back for that thing.
Too much freedom.
Yeah. Wow, right on, boys. That was a phenomenal show. I appreciate it. Apologies to Mr. Wesley Stevens. We ran out of time for you this week again.
Oh, Wes. Just give it up, Wes.
That's right. Big shout out to John Johnston and his band, the Dirt Road Scholars. Shout out to Richmond, Virginia, the home of the Dirt Road Scholars. Those guys are still going through some hard times with their gun laws. So make sure you follow up on that, because we do not want to have that come to Canada or anywhere else in the world. So check them out. Dirt Road Scholars, kick-ass music. And I think that's it. Appreciate it, Daniel. Chris,
thanks for the conversation, man. That was fantastic.
Thank you, guys.
It was.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
guys.
Thanks everybody out there watching. And Doug, I really appreciate the kind words. You guys have a good one.
Doug's awesome.
Thanks, guys.